So every now and then, the good guys win one. That's what we're talking about today. Oregon catalytic converter crime ring busted, police say. 14 accused of trafficking in stolen devices. The number of devices here, the number of catalytic converters it's pretty amazing. So this was a big, big operation, and they are feeling like this is one of the biggest operations on the West Coast. So between California and Washington. Let's take a little peek-see. You might be really surprised what city the headquarters are in, because I know this city well, and I was like, oh, that's weird. That's like having an operation out of Bellevue. That makes no sense at all. And yet, hide in plain sight, right? Okay, that's what this one seemed like. A months-long investigation by the Beaverton Police Department may have completely dismantled a local organized crime ring responsible for a large portion of catalytic converter thefts up and down the West Coast, police said Thursday. 2 alleged ringleaders and at least 12 of their suspected accomplices were indicted July 29th by a Washington County grand jury on dozens of aggravated theft, racketeering, and money laundering charges. The investigation began in late 2021 when detectives said Tanner Lee Hellbush, that's quite a name. What's your last name? Hellbush. Ugh. Yeah. So Tanner Lee Hellbush, 32 of Beaverton, was running an illegal fencing operation by posing as a legitimate business buying and selling catalytic converters. In March, police said that they pulled over Hellbush with more than 100 stolen catalytic converters worth about $80,000 on the black market. Hellbush's arrest led detectives to the person they believe is the tippy top of the crime enterprise, Brennan Patrick Doyle, 32, of Lake Oswego. The investigation came to a head in late July when police searched 8 locations, including a rented lakefront house in Lake Oswego. So I've got family that's lived on Lake Oswego for years and years and decades. This is not the kind of area where you would expect, tenant next door to be running an illegal catalytic converter theft operation. It's high end. It's as high end as it gets there, right? It's super nice lake, super nice homes around it. That's kind of shocking. But again, hide in plain sight, right? Go to the best neighborhood. What are you guys doing? Legit business. It's what we're doing. So included a rented lakefront house in Lake Oswego where they arrested Doyle and said they found 3,000 catalytic converters. Big garage? I mean, most of the homes in Lake Oswego, they're not huge mansions and, they're tight on the water. I can't imagine, you got a 3-car garage, you got 3,000 catalytic converters in there? I mean, that's probably maybe they got them strewn throughout the house. Who knows? Hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash, a high-end car, and jewelry. Doyle, Hellbush, and 12 other not yet publicly named defendants are accused of trafficking more than 44,000 stolen catalytic converters with an estimated street value of more than $22 million since January. $22 million on the street. 44,000 of them. So, that's an enormous multi-state, effort, right? It's just a ton of catalytic converters. Defendants in this case were living a nice life. I bet they were, said Officer Matt Henderson, a spokesperson for the Beaverton Police at a Thursday press conference. I bet they were. They're making some money. It's also some pretty massive risk. Catalytic converters, they're not small. They're not small things. You get 3,000 of them? Hey, what are you doing with all those catalytic converters? Well, we've got a legit business here and we're buying and selling and we're doing real well. Well, because that buy end of things is coming at quite a discount there. Get one of those little saws, hop underneath somebody's car, and zzz, zzz, away you go. Police said Doyle's organization was capitalizing on the increased price of heavy metals such as rhodium, platinum, and palladium found in catalytic converters, which cleanse gas emissions and reduce pollution. Isn't it crazy that they're going after this? Because the cost of these chemicals metals has gone so sky high. It's like, okay, what are we going to do? Wow, catalytic converters. I can get a lot of money for one of those used. And it's the used ones that are worth way more because they've done their filtering and they've got those metals in them, right? Rhodium, for example, is currently valued at over $14,000 an ounce. $14,000 an ounce. I mean, that kind of tells you something. That's what's fueling this. A standard catalytic converter has just a few grams of precious metals, while an intact catalytic converter is typically sold for $150 to $300 in the black market. Police estimate that once the metal is extracted at a refinery, it's worth about $800. So your 150 going to 800, it makes sense for somebody to be that middleman or the end man and make that money, but a lot of risk there. That's a lot of risk, obviously. And these guys got caught. And you always wonder, okay, so this is going, I don't know how many people I've known that have personally had their catalytic converter stolen or tried to or attempted to, but it's a lot. I mean, just about everybody I know has got a story of somebody somewhere. And Washington State in 2021 had the highest rate of catalytic converter theft of all the states in the United States. Now, we're number one. Yeah, we're going to win that race. Crazy, right? Because catalytic converters don't have identifying numbers, they aren't traceable. That's one of those things that early on in the pandemic, we're all talking about, well, get out your engraving pen and write your serial number on your catalytic converter so that when the police do recover it, years later, they'll know, hey, you got your catalytic converter stolen. Here it is. You want it back? Yeah, no. And these guys don't care if your catalytic converter has a serial number on it. I mean, they're willing to take a risk of hopping under your car with a saw that cuts through metal. Now, that's a rather loud noise, and they'll do it while you're in the car too. Had examples of people that I know have been in their vehicles and like, what is that sound? What is that sound? And somebody's cutting it off. Somebody's cutting off their cat. So it's impossible to know how many of the recovered converters came from cars in Oregon, Henderson said. So yeah, we just don't know. You don't know where they're coming from because it's a car part and they're not identified, right? I remember seeing, I think it was a YouTube video of somebody who took their just jacked up truck and they got under there and put a bunch of plates on their catalytic converter so that couldn't be stolen. And on one side it said the F word, and on the other side it said you. Go ahead and try and steal this one. Not going to happen. And I've also looked into for friends, who don't have garages, because that's the main thing all these news stories say is park your car in a garage. Well, yeah, but not everybody has a garage. So then what do you do? Because most of these are happening on the street, right? Because that's easy access. So, well, then put your serial number on the catalytic converter. There's also a lock system, but from what I understand, the lock system can be dismantled about as easy as they cut off the catalytic converter. So there's no real good solution here, except to get to the bad guys. And that's what we're reading about here. Who knows what the reality of how big this operation was? Cause you never know, right? I mean, it's not like the criminals are going to go, okay, here's our set of books. Here's all the stuff we stole. Here's all the stuff we took in. Doesn't really work that way, right? Police officials said the organized crime ring was centered in the Portland area, but also spanned 6 Oregon counties in Washington, Nevada, California, Texas, and New York. Oh, wait, in New York. That's far. Now we got a lot of hot ones out in New York. Let's make it happen. Let's go there. Texas, talk about middle of the country. California, that I understand that one. Nevada seemed a little out of the realm there, but Las Vegas, I don't know. Reno, the crime ring shipped large boxes of converters to the East Coast and internationally, Henderson said. Dozens, if not hundreds of people may have been involved in the operation. Well, if you're going to have thousands and thousands of catalytic converters, that means you've got, individuals out there stealing their 1 off, their 2 off, each day. And then they're uploading it to somebody and then they're up, it's a ring, right? It's an organized business. It's just not all that legal, and they're not paying their fair share of taxes. No, they're not. But dozens, if not hundreds of people may have been involved in the operation, he added, but declined to share more details than the ongoing investigation as detectives are still gathering evidence. Will this stop the theft of catalytic converters? No. It's just a speed bump, right? But every now and then, you just got to kind of give a hand to the good guys and say, all right, you got one. You got one big bust. Maybe it puts this enterprise out of business, but guaranteed somebody else is going to go, hey, did you hear about Jimmy's operation? Jimmy's down. Let's go. It's go time. Remember when we talked about needing to pivot? We talk about pivoting in business all the time. This is kind of my third pivot into the podcasting world. My first, gig was as an appraiser. I'm owning an appraisal company. My second gig is ramping up a real estate sales company, a brokerage. And this is my third pivot. So, sometimes you go from small time to big time, and that's where you got to make that pivot. And you got to get your organization going because, Jimmy's shop, they just got shut down. Jimmy was living the high life, probably had a jet ski on Lake Oswego, probably had that speedboat. It's an epic lake, epic. And he's just stealing thousands or his folks, or he's buying, thousands of catalytic converters. He's got hundreds of them in the den, where normally you'd sit there and do your work and look at your, cabinetry that's all custom made. And, oh God, this is great. But no, he had catalytic converters racked up in those, right? I have no idea. I'm totally making all that up. But doesn't that make sense? You rent a waterfront home and you stack it up with catalytic converters. Yeah. All right. Whatever. I'm not a criminal, so I don't really pretend to know how that goes, but it always just sounds so goofy. Just sounds so ridiculous. And then when you look at it, you go, why wouldn't you? I mean, why not? This business was turning millions of dollars worth of profit in catalytic converters. You need an organization and multiple people to do that. Well, they had them. I mean, it has been an epidemic of catalytic converters here in Washington State. I've talked about my mechanic. He's like, hey, Sean, can you come get your truck? Because it's old and it's got that catalytic converter. And you can basically not even have to duck when you go under my truck if you're a shorter individual. And, you can just cut off that bad boy. And he's like, hey, fix your truck. Come get it ASAP. Because we've had people poking around. We've had people try and steal catalytic converters off of the bus that we fix for the church. Is nothing sacred. You got a bus with, All Holy Names Church or whatever, Academy or whatever. And somebody gets in there, let's steal it off of that one. It's just crazy. At least 1,000 catalytic converters from the sting are sitting in evidence boxes at Beaverton Police Department's garage. So if you had one stolen, you might want to go looking. Hey, can I take a peek for my catalytic converter? I don't really know what it looks like, but I'd like it back. Very expensive. Nah, I mean, these are just crimes that they're one and done, right? They're gone. Henderson said the department is brainstorming how to get the money from those converters back to the community. I don't know that you do. I think you just head down and keep going after those bad guys. And the rest of this, try and, prevention down the road. Hey, let's cut off the ability for these guys to operate like that and go after the big operations like you've done here and get money back to the community. That sounds good and all, but life is kind of moving fast. And Henderson said dozens of law enforcement officers from several local agencies spent thousands of hours on this case. Over the months, they were constantly weighing the risk and reward of continuing the investigation and building a case, while Doyle and his associates allegedly kept raking in money. So they knew who it was, and they're just trying to get as many people as they can in the organization, getting information. But then they've also got the risk of that their cover is going to get blown. And these guys just, book it to Mexico or wherever they go, some third world country somewhere. Yep, got to go. Things got a little hot. We're out of here. Leave the cats behind. Yep, probably not going to pay that last month's rent on the lakefront home on Lake Oswego. So they reached a point in the investigation where they're confident they could take down a portion of the organization. Beaverton's interim police chief, Stacy Jepson, said that she hoped the work of investigators in her department will provide a blueprint to other law enforcement agencies locally and nationally. Doesn't it feel like the whole catalytic converter thing has kind of had its run I mean, how many cats are out there that you can do this to? I know it's a lot, but I feel like it's one of those things where it's going to have its short-term run, and then we'll come up with something. Here in Washington State, we've already started the process of need to pay. You can't pay for cash if you're a wholesaler and you're buying these catalytic converters. You got to write a check, so that they're trying to slow down the flow of stolen goods, obviously. But this is such an easy thing to sell. It's a car part, and then you melt it down. So by the time it gets to where it needs to go and they melt it down, there's no evidence left, right? There's no catalytic converter. It's just the chromium and palladium and all that good stuff that's really expensive right now. So patience has allowed us to take this organization down instead of just scratching the surface. I like hearing that, but I also realize, and you also realize, this is just one operation out of probably many. Maybe it was the biggest one, but this stuff is still going on, and it's just crazy that we're dealing with theft of catalytic converter. Also, just the theft of vehicles in general. And it's because, you catch these guys and you try and put them in jail. That's not going to happen. I mean, we're just not, personal property theft, car theft, grand theft. We're just not really putting people in jail for that. We're just letting them go. And I need to keep these prisons open because, racism, right? Court documents show Doyle was operating under a limited liability company in his name. Well, I mean, you need that tax break. I mean, you do. You need an LLC for the protection from being an illegal business. Okay. Well, I mean, give the guy a little scooch of credit for trying to go down. No, that guy's a moron. Doyle had no previous criminal record in Oregon. In the stolen catalytic converter indictment, he's been charged with 69 counts of aggravated theft. All right. Is he going to do any time at all? Probably not. I mean, probably do a little, maybe a couple of years. Is he going to do 5? Probably not. Is he going to get let out on probation? Hey, you got no priors. You promised to be a good person. You promised to show up at your next court case. I'll let you go. Beaverton police arrested Helbush last summer for trespassing, and he was found guilty on a misdemeanor charge for being in possession of a burglary tool. Uh-oh. What did he have? Did he have a Slim Jim? He's been convicted 3 times in Multnomah County. Okay, so he did have quite a record there. In the past decade for driving while impaired, he got a DUI, and was arrested on several occasions for driving with a revoked or suspended license. So all in all, not necessarily a rule follower, and he's probably a career criminal. Probably is. Washington County District Attorney Kevin Barton said the investigation marks a significant success in stopping quality of life crimes. All right. Yeah. That's about it for the end of the story. So good guys 1, bad guys 0, but that is, bad guys have been winning. They have been winning thousands and thousands of times, and there's not much you can do to stop it. I mean, these people come and go, and then if the prosecutors aren't going to go after these folks, and if the judges aren't going to sentence them to anything, then why wouldn't this continue to just, sprout like a legit business that's doing well? Because crime does pay. Let's be honest. Crime does pay. It pays very, very well. In this article, they were living a good life. I bet they were. You're stealing your catalytic converter and selling it, and nobody's any the wiser. So it took a lot of effort. And is that effort worth what it's going to have in the marketplace, impact-wise? I don't know. But it's all police can do is try, do their best, head down, do their thing. And every now and then they get a big one like this. So congrats to the Beaverton Police Department. And I will keep you posted. So that's kind of the overall view of a catalytic converter, organization and business. And they're well run. They got a lot of money. They got a lot of resources because they've got the cash flow to do it. So yeah, wild stuff. Thanks for being here. Thanks for supporting. I will catch up with you in the next one. Bye for now.